Chips and technologies, the graphics chipset maker. In the swirling chaos of Silicon Valley's golden age, where fortunes were made and lost with each new semiconductor breakthrough, one company seemed to have cracked the code of computer graphics dominance. Chips and Technologies, founded in 1985 by former Intel engineers, wasn't just another startup chasing dreams in California garages. This was a precision-engineered assault on the graphics chipset market, led by industry veterans who understood exactly what personal computers needed to evolve beyond their primitive pixelated displays. Their story begins not with a grand vision, but with a calculated bet that the future of computing lay in democratizing advanced graphics capabilities that had previously been the exclusive domain of expensive workstations and mainframes. The company's founding team read like a who's who of semiconductor excellence. Gordon Campbell, the CEO and driving force behind Chips and Technologies, had previously served as Intel's youngest-ever general manager, earning his stripes during the microprocessor giant's most explosive growth period. Alongside Campbell stood a cadre of experienced engineers who had grown frustrated with the slow pace of graphics innovation at established companies. They recognized that the personal computer revolution was being held back by inadequate graphics capabilities, and they positioned themselves to solve this fundamental bottleneck. Campbell's reputation preceded him, having been instrumental in Intel's early microprocessor development, and his decision to focus entirely on graphics chipsets rather than general-purpose processors represented a bold strategic gamble that would define the company's trajectory for the next 12 years. The timing of Chips and Technologies' market entry proved absolutely crucial. The year 1985 marked a pivotal moment in personal computing when IBM's new VGA standard was revolutionizing display capabilities, but remained prohibitively expensive for most manufacturers. While IBM's original VGA implementation required multiple expensive chips and complex circuit boards, Chips and Technologies saw an opportunity to consolidate these functions into single-chip solutions that could dramatically reduce costs while maintaining compatibility. Their first major breakthrough came with the development of highly integrated VGA controller chips that could replicate IBM's functionality at a fraction of the cost and complexity. This wasn't merely incremental improvement, but a fundamental reimagining of how graphics processing could be implemented in personal computers. The company's technical achievements in the late 1980s established them as the undisputed leader in graphics chipset integration. Their 82C451 VGA controller, introduced in 1987, became the industry standard for clone manufacturers seeking to compete with IBM's expensive PS2 systems. This single chip could handle all the functions that previously required multiple components, including video timing generation, memory control, and display output formatting. The integration was so successful that major computer manufacturers like Compaq, Dell, and AST Research adopted Chips and Technology solutions as their primary graphics subsystems. By 1988, the company had captured over 60% of the VGA chipset market, a remarkable achievement for a startup barely 3 years old. Their success wasn't just about technical excellence, but about understanding the economics of the PC industry, where cost reduction and manufacturability often mattered more than cutting-edge performance. As the personal computer market exploded in the early 1990s, Chips and Technologies found themselves riding a wave of unprecedented demand. The company went public in 1988, raising $30 million and giving them the capital necessary to expand their research and development efforts significantly. Their product line expanded beyond basic VGA compatibility to include advanced features like hardware acceleration, higher resolution support, and specialized functions for laptop computers. The introduction of their 65545 and 65548 chipsets in the early 1990s demonstrated the company's ability to stay ahead of evolving industry standards while maintaining their cost advantages. These chips supported resolutions up to 1024x768 with 256 colors, capabilities that had been unthinkable in mainstream personal computers just a few years earlier. The laptop market proved particularly lucrative, as portable computer manufacturers desperately needed low-power graphics solutions that could deliver acceptable performance while preserving battery life. The technological landscape began shifting dramatically in the mid-1990s, and Chips and Technologies found themselves struggling to adapt to new realities. The emergence of 3D graphics as a consumer requirement fundamentally altered the competitive dynamics they had dominated for nearly a decade. Companies like 3DFX Interactive and NVIDIA entered the market with specialized 3D acceleration chips that could render complex three-dimensional scenes in real time, capabilities that traditional 2D-focused chipsets simply couldn't match. While Chipset Technologies attempted to respond with their own 3D solutions, including the 69000 series launched in 1996, they lacked the specialized expertise and aggressive engineering culture that characterized the new generation of graphics companies. Their products remained competitive in basic business applications and cost-sensitive markets, but the high-growth segments of gaming and multimedia were increasingly dominated by pure-play 3D specialists. The company's financial performance began reflecting these market pressures by the mid-1990s. Revenue growth, which had been consistent throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, started to flatten as competition intensified and profit margins compressed. Major computer manufacturers began diversifying their graphics supplier relationships, reducing their dependence on any single vendor and increasing price pressure across the industry. Chipset Technologies found themselves caught between established competitors like Cirrus Logic and S3 Graphics on one side, and emerging 3D specialists on the other. Their traditional strength in integration and cost reduction became less relevant as performance differentiation took precedence in key market segments. The company's stock price reflected investor concerns about their ability to compete in this new environment, declining from its 1995 peaks as analysts questioned whether traditional graphics chipset companies could successfully transition to 3D-focused product lines. Intel's acquisition of Chipset Technologies in 1997 for approximately $400 million represented both vindication and defeat for Campbell's vision. The acquisition price reflected the substantial value that Chipset Technologies had created over their 12-year independent existence. But it also acknowledged that the company could no longer compete effectively as a standalone entity. Intel's motivation was clear. They needed graphics expertise to support their emerging integrated chipset strategy, where graphics functions would be incorporated directly into motherboard chipsets rather than remaining as separate components. For Intel, Chipset Technologies represented not just technical capabilities, but also relationships with computer manufacturers and deep understanding of graphics software compatibility issues. The acquisition gave Intel immediate credibility in graphics markets where they had previously been absent, while providing Chipset Technologies engineers with the resources of one of the semiconductor industry's most powerful companies. The integration of Chipset Technologies into Intel's broader strategy proved more complex than either company anticipated. While Intel successfully incorporated much of the acquired graphics technology into their integrated chipset offerings, the fundamental culture clash between the companies created ongoing challenges. Chipset Technologies had operated as a nimble, focused graphics specialist where engineering decisions could be made quickly and products brought to market rapidly. Intel's more methodical, process-driven approach to product development represented a dramatic change for former Chipset Technologies employees. Many of the key engineers who had driven the company's technical innovations left Intel within a few years of the acquisition, taking their expertise to other graphics companies or starting new ventures. The Chipset Technologies brand was gradually phased out as Intel consolidated their graphics efforts under unified product lines, marking the end of one of the most successful independent graphics chipset companies in PC history. The legacy of Chipset Technologies extends far beyond their financial success or eventual acquisition by Intel. They proved that specialized semiconductor companies could compete effectively against established giants by focusing relentlessly on specific market needs and executing with superior engineering efficiency. Their approach to graphics chipset integration became the template for an entire generation of semiconductor companies that followed, demonstrating how complex functionality could be consolidated into single-chip solutions without sacrificing performance or compatibility. The company's success in the VGA era helped democratize advanced graphics capabilities, making sophisticated displays affordable for mainstream computer users and accelerating the adoption of graphical user interfaces across the industry. However, their ultimate fate also illustrated the challenges facing specialized technology companies when fundamental market shifts occur. The transition from 2D to 3D graphics represented exactly the type of discontinuous change that can render existing expertise less valuable overnight, forcing even successful companies to completely reinvent themselves or face obsolescence. Chips and Technologies chose the path of acquisition rather than attempting a risky transformation, a decision that preserved value for shareholders but ended their existence as an independent innovation engine in the graphics industry.